Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to cover a couple of issues. Senator Cruz already covered the first point I was going to raise, which relates essentially to the observation that there is no indication from the historical record that Abraham Lincoln would have deferred to George McClellan on the issue of filling that seat that went to Sam Chase had the election of the fall of 1864 gone differently. None whatsoever. It's just not what happened. Secondly, the Dormant Commerce Clause has been brought up. This is an issue that's deeply personal to me and should be to every American. Look, the Dormant Commerce Clause is exactly—
We believe you.
Is actually one of the more important things the federal judiciary does. It's not entirely uncontroversial. In fact, it's been the subject of some controversy. It impacts the way that a state or a political subdivision of a state can treat an article of commerce, and whether or not it can be discriminated against based on its origin or destination out of state or outside the United States. It's controversial for a number of reasons, including the fact that it ends up affecting revenue streams that states and their political subdivisions can access and how they can access them. And it's based on an interpretation of the Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution, one that is often understood as providing Congress with an affirmative grant of authority to regulate interstate commercial transactions and channels and instrumentalities of interstate commerce. It has also been interpreted by the courts as creating a cause of action against states, municipalities, and other political subdivisions of states in those circumstances where discrimination against interstate commerce has occurred. This is a significant thing, and to call it insignificant only highlights the fact that there are some issues and not others that some of my colleagues want to focus on. And they've wanted to focus almost exclusively on those issues. Why? Well, I don't know, perhaps in some ways to convert this nominee and other nominees into somebody who can be measured against the backdrop of a Democratic politician. If you're looking at a Democratic policymaker, Amy Coney Barrett is not a policymaker. And as far as I'm aware, she's not a Democrat. You're upset with the fact that she won't unequivocally commit, as some other nominees have, to upholding certain sacred cow precedents. But it's not as though your observation is that she lacks commitment to precedent generally. It's just that she won't commit to certain precedents that might well become subject to additional litigation in the future. It is important, moreover, to remember that elections do, in fact, have consequences. In the election of 2014, the American people voted, and they elected Republicans to the Senate. In the election of 2016, the American people voted, and they elected Republicans to the Senate and a Republican to the White House. In the election of 2018, which I would note here, followed immediately on the heels of, frankly, abominable treatment by members of this committee on the other side of the aisle of Brett Kavanaugh. The American people in the immediate wake of that mistreatment of Brett Kavanaugh and your manipulation of these committee hearings elected a Republican majority to the Senate. Those terms for each of those senators last 6 years, not 2 years, not 4 years, not 5 3/4 years, 6 years. Those terms matter. And just as Ruth Bader Ginsburg herself noted in 2016, there's nothing in the Constitution that indicates that the president is no longer the president in the final term of his office. So too here. So too with U.S. senators. Nothing that makes us less senators, depending on our proximity to our next election. Certainly there is nothing about this nominee that can be left as suggesting that she's anything other than an extraordinarily gifted jurist, who's well prepared for her service on the federal judiciary in a different capacity instead of being on the Seventh Circuit on the Supreme Court of the United States. The fact that she won't commit to certain controversial policy positions makes her more qualified for the job, not less.